GM, GM, Hot Takes, Cold Wallets, episode number 18. And this week had everything in crypto security, a bit of everything. We had conferences, we had the major DeFi protocol loose funds, we had ETHCC wrapping up, we had the guys from Chain Patrol over in Cannes or Cannes, whoever knows how you pronounce it in your natural language. And today we're unpacking all of this in this episode number 18. Hi, Juan. Hi, Nikita. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing well, doing well. It's nice in Cairns here. It's maybe a little bit chillier than last year. Last year we went, at the peak when it was extremely hot. Now it's almost like a little bit chilly with the wind, but I shouldn't be complaining from Canada. But yeah, honestly, the energy here is really great. A ton of builders came out, a ton of companies. Honestly, like way more of a turnout than I would have even thought. Like I wasn't even expecting this much, but it's really great to see everybody out in force here, even while the markets may not be in the greatest stage. And everybody's really focused on what are we building next? There's like the stable coins camp, there's like privacy camp, there's people focused on like scaling Ethereum. So there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of exciting things being built. So yeah, overall good vibes here.
Yeah, I agree with Nikita. There is a lot going on here. These days have been quite hectic for all of us, like a lot of side events, going to one to another, going to the main conference as well. I found actually really useful. The main conference, really fruitful conversations, really good companies also having booth there. So definitely was like a really, really good experience. And yeah, compared to last year, much more chilly. People actually having coats and jackets. Last year we were sweating where we are working to the other side events every 10 minutes. So this is definitely better. So we don't have that inconvenience right now. And yeah, I mean, with Chain Patrol team, we have been working a lot of things going on apart from the conference itself. So yeah, as you mentioned, today and or yesterday maybe it was like a really big things happening on the security side of things that we would like to discuss today. And it's really important to address this on the security side of things, so we can speak more about like things not happening again. And yeah, Wimi, you were worried about like security here in France. So far, so good. We haven't heard any crazy stories, at least me. So hopefully this it stays this way.
I hope you guys don't get kidnapped after the stream. And Nikita, last year you had this talk in front of the ocean, right? The security talk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was a good time. There was a ton more events at that same spot this year. Everybody loves that venue right on the beach. There was a MetaMask Builders Nights there, and the line was like maybe an hour long to get in. It was pretty crazy.
Okay, so before we dive into what happened at ECC and what you guys were doing over there, we wanted to cover the latest in the security side of the space, which was the DeFi protocol hack of Drift. And I'm gonna read a bit off my screen here because I need some notes about this particular topic. So Drift got exploited basically for $285 million. And Drift, essentially, for those who don't know, is Solana's largest perpetual DEX. So it's like a decentralized exchange. And from what I have understood, it was a combination of social engineering and governance issues, which were past and present. They were shifted over with multi-signers, and this is what the attackers basically exploited. So the setup was the attackers basically they tricked the legitimate signers into signing like pre-signing transactions that could be stored on Solana. Nikita, jump in if it's wrong what I'm telling you. But basically they made it seem like it's like an usual update that you need to do if you're changing signers on the multisig side of things. And basically they signed persistent numbers which can basically be saved, quote unquote, and then be executed at some later point in time. And the key moment was basically the guys over there had only 2 out of 5 people being available to sign the multisig. and they had no time locks whatsoever on the protocol itself. So that's pretty crazy if you ask me, Nikita. Like, it's not like a smart contract bug, but it's like, I don't even know how to describe it. Actually, like, you have people responsible for signing, and 2 out of 5 is like a pretty non-standard setup. So the most setup we see is 3+, like 3 signers
Mhm.
at least. 3 out of 5 is I think pretty usual. We
Mhm.
sometimes see 4 or even 5+ people. Like, obviously depends on the amount of people or the amount of funds that the protocol is working
Yeah.
with. But like a 2 out of 5 setup is pretty uncommon for 200+ million, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, so I think there's a few things here that, you know, went wrong. One is the configuration side of things. There are definitely like more secure setups that can be done here. Now, I can't completely, speak for why the decision was made this way or why it was set up in this way, but I do think there are um, uh, definitely, like, whenever you're dealing with a multi-sig lets you do a lot of different things, right? It's not so much a smart contract that is set in stone and works one way. There's an element of configuration to it, and so it's up to you how you use it, which now does lead to the stage of, like, you need to configure it correctly. um, the other part that is interesting to me is that, how did they get the people to sign those transactions, right? Because, um, as far as I can tell, the keys don't seem to have been compromised. It seems that the people that were involved thought they were signing also routine messages that then led to that led to them signing the wrong transaction from some of the kind of like research that I was doing. And so the tricky thing, the thing that's interesting there is that's essentially what happened in the Bybit attack as well, right? Like, that's exactly the same approach of a social engineering attack where the internal team was targeted. They managed to compromise something in the chain of a lead by chain. I mean by supply chain, not literally on chain. They managed to have something hacked in the supply chain that led them to be able to show a misleading message to the signers. Basically exactly what happened to Bybit attack. Like, the method of delivery may have been different, but the actual, how it reached what the end goal was the same. And so,
But basically, Nikita, just to jump in here real
yeah,
quick, is what they actually did additionally was they launched a fake token, kinda, which was the collateral, which was like the perps were stacked against, and then they basically created fake value, which they then drained, and led to this loss of 285 million in real assets which were stolen, which is even more
yeah,
crazy. I think like they set an Oracle price to $1 or whatever to their fake tokens, and then they were able to pull this amount of money out of the protocol, which is
yeah,
like insane. It's not only getting someone to sign these messages, but then launching the fake token, using the
yeah,
collateral,
yeah,
and draining the protocol for almost $300 million. It's crazy,
yeah.
crazy work.
Yeah, I think there's areas at each part of the stack that really need to be improved there. Like, one thing I think, again, we're gonna this conversation, we brought it up before and it's gonna keep coming up again, is doing to start pinning the versions of our front ends, right? Of our front ends and of all the dependencies. Because if you're signing through a website or something similar, I don't know if they signed actually through a site here, but this was the case for in the Bybit example. Is if you're signing through a site or even a self-hosted version, but that might be getting updated every single day, you're vulnerable to these kinds of attacks where the front end updates and it's showing you something misleading. And so I think we're going to get to a stage where the front ends are going to be treated just as critically as the smart contract itself or any other area, because in the end, if it gives the signer a misleading message, you're basically compromised, right, at that point. And so because you don't know what you're signing, you're saying yes to anything at that point. So yeah, that's I think, or even signing device again, going back to devices, only signing from, I don't know, like ledgers or something similar. Um, there's different approaches to this, but again, having an unchangeable place that where you sign your messages is going to be very important. That's what is doing leading to a lot of these social engineering attacks right now.
Juan, would
Yeah.
you say, Nikita, maybe you too, would you say, like, with the multisig managing this amount of funds, are we really talking about DeFi? Is this really decentralized finance?
Yeah, I mean, that is
It's like a hypothetical question, but
yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there are more decentralized systems than this. Like, you can definitely be more like, I think the Uniswap founder was talking about this on X recently quite a bit about how, it would be difficult to pull something off like this against Uniswap. But what I would say is that there are multisigs in all sorts of ways sprinkled through all major like a lot of the major protocols, and it really depends. Like, you can't always like, they might be related to like a governance token, but then you might have that maybe shouldn't have too much, like, and that governance you think is limited. So you think this is decentralized because the area where you do have the multi-sig is very minimal and the rest of the system is kind of maybe standalone. But then you don't realize that there's a bug, or there's maybe like a unique economic attack that can be done as well. That's the thing, is like these systems get really, really complex. And yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, if you really think about it, like, the only really decentralized thing is if you put an immutable contract on chain that nobody can touch. And I think anything less than that is not 100% decentralized. And then at that point, it's just what level are you comfortable with, right? Because if there's upgrade paths, well, that's not decentralized. Somebody can upgrade it. If there is a again, somebody can adjust the certain portions of the contract, or do things with like the adjust Oracle thing, anything that in the contract that can be adjusted by any group of people, like a small group of people, like under, like, I don't know, like 10,000, or maybe even under 1,000. There's concentration risk there for sure. So it's just, again, it's what level are you comfortable with?
Yeah, I agree that there is at least two ways. Like, I mean, being a purist that only like an immutable smart contract is DeFi, it's hard to say, and it's, I would say, pretty weird that a protocol goes that way. I mean, it will be interesting, like, as an experiment to see and test it out. But most of the companies right now, and also most of the DeFi protocols, have like security councils, and they have that for a reason. The thing is, like, how these security councils are being processing their internal operational security, if they actually care about that at all. Um, like, how is the different processes that they have, if those processes have been updated. Like, we say this all the time, security is something that you cannot forget. Security is something that you need to be updated all the time, all the single time, because right now we are not seeing like a smart contract issue. It's exactly like an operational security vulnerability that we found here. And I think crypto industry in general has been knows a lot about audits. Like, if you launch something, or if a protocol launches like a token, or even not a token, but like a DeFi solution or a DeFi product, they know that they need to do audits. But I don't know if the standard is the same with operational security, with brand protection, and other parts of security that goes uh, outside like the audit itself. So I think we are here like in a great example of why operational security is something that needs to be put in the same level. The biggest hack that we had last year, Bybit, was on this. This first 2026 largest hack is also about like operational security. So I think this needs to tell us something. It's something that we cannot avoid, that we need to take more seriously as an industry. and that we need to have like different layers of protection that not only allows us to prevent these kind of situations, because hackers are really, really smart. They probably are going to figure out different ways to keep on doing these hacks, even if we update our security standards and does this like much, much better. But also how we process once like a scammer or once like a hacker gets his way and gets the money, what's happening next. And I'm mentioning this because there has been a lot of hate also to Circle on this specific hack, because they could have frozen the assets after the hacker basically drained the entire contract, and they haven't done this. And there is a lot of people blaming Circle on this, that they may have like helped recover the funds, even if they didn't were the ones hacked. So all of these, what tells me at least, is that there is some level of coordination that needs to be happening, some levels of communication that needs to be happening, because in this case they were actually partners. They made like an announcement on social media that they were some kind of working together, some kind of like showing product that they were having or promoting each other. So even in these cases where we have these partnerships, if these can basically, what I'm thinking in myself is that maybe they don't even know that they could have like helped this way. Maybe the protocol didn't know that they could have prevented, even after the fact that they were hacked, that they could have made some impact on this, and they basically didn't do it. So what tells me this is that operational security happening starts, okay, let's get we got hacked, what we do next is as important or more as having like a audit on all the different products and all the different things that you launch.
Yeah, there isn't actually any info post-mortem or anything on the Drift protocol side. So I just checked the X account before the spaces, and there were just like some mandatory updates like, hey, we know there has been an incident and that we have been like looking into the issue and stuff like that, but they haven't been doing any post-mortem, this is what happened kind of conclusion TLDR version for any of us. So Nikita, I wanted to ask one question to end this topic. Do you think this damages the reputation of DeFi in general? Is there any talks about that on the ETC side when you're talking to builders?
I mean, it just happened. I think people were not yet so like aware. Like not honestly, like it takes some time for this to kind of like propagate. But I mean, we've had big hacks before. It didn't really stop DeFi in any way. Like, I don't think this is gonna affect DeFi long term. Like, is it gonna affect a lot of individuals for sure? Like, there's people that lost tons of money, and it's gonna hurt a lot of people. But DeFi as a whole will be fine, and it's gonna keep moving. And hopefully, and every time one of these things happens, it's every other protocol is now hopefully reevaluating their stack, learning from this, and the whole industry is becoming safer. So unfortunate this had to happen, but I don't think it has any impact on DeFi as an entire industry. I mean, one thing I would say, one caveat there is like, I think as institutions are deploying money into DeFi, they're going to start to become more and more critical of the audits and the security posture of the protocols. And so, they already have to do a ton of compliance checks, a ton of like security reviews. And I think that's only going to increase because they don't want to touch anything that has, a high risk of getting hacked. And so again, these things are tough to say it's bulletproof too, because there have been multiple great audits done on Drift. It's not like it's not like they didn't put things into play, like put work in to try and secure the system. But I think the scope of the audit is going to need to increase as well, where we're not just looking anymore at, is the smart contracts set up correct? It's also, is the multi-sig setup correct? I mean, that scope has already increased partially, but, I would say a bit slowly. Now they're going to say, okay, we need to like audit the entire system end to end, not just focus on one piece and do like
And
maybe a
also the
medium
people
audit.
involved in it, right? Like everyone
Yes,
who's a signer or
exactly.
something, they need to do some security training or whatever to be aware of what they are signing or what can happen if they sign some random message, which they think is just like a mandatory, hey, this is an updated version of the multisig or whatever they were thinking when
Exactly.
they were signing that. Yeah. Okay, so let's zoom out to ECC. You guys were there all week. So Nikita, we talked about convos happening or not happening about DeFi or any any fallback for the DeFi reputation because of this hack. So what kind of talks were happening at ECC? What was the most discussed topic you had in these days?
I think again it's interesting just because like it really depends who you spoke to. And I think that's the main takeaway I got is that, and my main theory about the whole space right now is that part of why people feel maybe a little bit lost is that crypto has grown beyond one or two single narratives dominating the whole space. And now it's starting to like the industry is big enough that this tree is starting to branch out into different narratives. There's the stablecoin people and the institutional adoption people, and they're just focused on like, okay, how do we get banks and large investment funds and all of this onto the chain. They're more focused on compliance. They're building chains where there's both a mix of decentralization, but also maybe they have some either specialized builds or maybe some controls for now where they can have some disaster recovery that is being controlled. Because it is a little bit scary, sometimes for banks and others to go into these systems. There's, chains like Canton, Tempo, others that are very prominent in that narrative right now. Arc as well. And then there's the people focused on privacy. This is one I'm most excited about is just the privacy tech. It takes a long time to build it out. There's still a lot of ongoing research there. We finally see launches and things going live, like a lot of updates from like Aztec and others right now that are now have usable privacy solutions going live, which is awesome to see. I was talking to some people like, hey, will we ever see privacy enshrined in some way on Ethereum? The takeaway there was not anytime soon. There is still so many different. I think this is where like ZK was maybe like 3 years ago, where it was like some theoretical thing that you saw in one side talk in like one little workshop in like a side event in like a side room at DevConnect or something. And now like everything's going ZK. I think that's a similar thing for where privacy is right now. It's going to be probably another 2 to 3 years where before we see it like it's just like, okay, we figured out, we've had all the research breakthroughs, we figured out how to productionize it, and it's live everywhere. But we're not even thinking about privacy anymore. And I think that's one of the major things still holding back all businesses going on chain, just because there are many use cases where you just don't want people to see your transactions being live. And so that's I think that's where a lot of institutions are playing around with blockchains right now, and many of them are starting to deploy things, but they have to figure out very specific kinds of use cases, or kind of like being partially on chain, partially off chain to keep some of the data safe. Those are the two major ones. And then there's of course people like working still on just like scaling Ethereum. There's the people working on like how do we build even better casinos and all this kind of stuff. But like there's that's a valid use case too. It's just it's not the one that people in that camp aren't happy right now, and that's fine, because a lot of their thing is tied to overall token prices going up and down, right? So that's going to be the case for a little bit, and then the cycle will go up and down as it does.
Yeah, I think if you treat it like one of the branches actually with the casino and stuff, then it's fine if it happens like on that side, but you are into more the stablecoin part of things or whatever. It can coexist. It doesn't have to be like, hey, we're hating each other and we're fighting each other and we're going at each other's throat all day.
Yeah.
Because this is what happened basically when we're just like, we're all in this little bubble and everything was fighting for attention within the same circle of people. And now we have multiple topics where different people and different institutions are gravitating towards, which is a good thing, I think. Juan, do you think that security especially got enough attention at the conference?
Well, there was a security track, so definitely I would say security is important. I think there were like 12 people talking about that. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time to go and check out the actual presentations that they did. But I think, yeah, security is always relevant, especially for HCC. Like I know internally how they work, and they care too much about like physical security, at least organization, and also like on the brand protection side of things, they also are really, really careful about that. What I would say as well is that we had our documentary screening on ETC a few days ago. That was definitely really, really exciting for all the team, and we had like a pretty good audience as well in there. And I think everybody was impacted about what actually scam compounds are, how they're operating. We have like set presentations from people from NGOs as well in the room. So it was like a special moment, at least for me in ETC. I think definitely apart from all the different talks or the different events that I went, this was something special. And I'm happy that we were able actually to have this screening. Probably in the next few weeks, we'll be posting it in social media, so everybody will be able to watch it and provide comments, and also provide feedback on what's going on here. And yeah, that personally is one of the best things that I think I take from TCTC.
Yeah, let's talk about it while we're at it, Nikita. Lights in Dark Rooms was the premiere of your documentary, which basically it's exposing scam compounds in Southern Asia, correct? Where like people are where they are trafficked or forced into like online fraud investigation rings or whatever you want to call them. What led you guys to decide you want to go in the direction of doing a documentary on this type of part of the whole scam cycle, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people just don't realize the extent of this problem and what is actually happening. They sometimes imagine, okay, maybe there's a call center, or maybe it's like a few people doing this, and there's like they imagine maybe individual scammers. A lot of people just don't realize how this is an entire like industry that is attacking people and scamming them, and also that not everybody on the other side is a bad person. There's usually the people that are running the organizations that are criminals, but they kidnap people and they rely heavily on human trafficking. And they force people to work in essentially in slavery, into running scams, some people into even writing the software that is then used for scams. And this is something that really needs to be shown to the rest of the world. Like we're in a stage where there is a little bit more awareness now of North Korea that, okay, this isn't just like a person or two, but this is a whole branch of the military that is focused on running these phishing attacks, impersonation, stealing people's funds, because it's a real revenue source, bringing in billions of dollars. And it's not just them. Others have caught on, and it's a great way to make money for if you don't, have morals around this. And that's what we needed to expose, right? And so Our team, Vito, Mike, like they did an incredible job. Risky, honestly, like when they were flying out, we were thinking like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, this sounds dangerous, right? This really sounds dangerous. And they, we had a discussion, made a plan. They made a plan how to do this all in like, as safe a way as you could possibly do. There's going to be, of course, a good amount of danger involved, but plan it out well. Won't go into all the details there, but everything was done properly to ensure that this can be done in a good in a good, like, efficient and safe way. And honestly, like I didn't even see it myself until like the full thing until a few days ago before the premiere, and I was honestly just shocked. Like the whole there's just so many sections there on Small Q, how he Small Q is one of the victims, and he's now become he was a rapper before, and now he raps about his time spent in these compounds and the stories he's telling, and the other victims as well. It's just insane how they were treated, and also the way that, like, what they did to like escape is honestly heroic. There's the ambassador from Uganda. She did incredible work to literally negotiate with like criminal groups and others to like help with their release. It's like honestly incredible work, and there's so many people involved there that I'm like, we need to raise awareness for them, and we need to support them, because honestly, it's just like people are in terrible conditions there, and we need just hopefully the more people that know about it, the better. But the more we can support them, because sometimes we sit here thinking about, oh, like we're building a business, right? Like we're building a business as a company, and we're going to continue building a business. And I honestly think that the best way to solve problems many times is to figure out how to make it economically feasible. That's my own approach, is like you can do good and make money off of it, and actually making money helps you do more good. But there are many cases like this where it's just not obvious right off the bat, like, how do you solve this in an economically feasible way? And we need to help them, and we need to donate and find other ways to support them, to just actually like save people who are being tortured right now. Yeah, this whole thing has given me a lot of things to reflect on and just think about. And I hope others get to see that as well.
What's interesting is that sometimes they kind of bait people with false promises of high-paying jobs, right?
Exactly,
They say,
yeah.
"Hey, you can come here and work for us at like as a software developer of something," and someone who's just like in a third world country, they want to make a better life. They travel over there,
Mhm.
and then they get like stuck in these cycles where you have to realize that it's basically like a scale of people running an industry of scamming people. Because if you think about all of these cases where you are trying to get lured into something like pig butchering, Roman scams, all of this stuff, it's not like it's always bots doing these, but they're actually like people behind this, and they are not doing this on their own free will, but they are forced to do so. And actually, they're not seeing any money off of that probably either. So just like the North Korean guys who probably don't keep any of their benefits, quote unquote, for the hacks, it just goes all to the state. In this case, it's just going to the crime circles, or whatever you want to call them, the syndicates, or whatever
Yeah.
is behind them. It's crazy, man. And you just said you want to release the documentation like on socials or on YouTube. What's the plan for that?
Yeah, we're still working. That's TBD. Like we want to release it in a way that will have both a lot of impact and reach the most people, and at the same time be visible to everybody. We don't want anything kind of like blocking out somebody seeing this or sharing it. So there's just we want to make the release kind of all proper. So That will be announced soon. But meanwhile, we're cooking on some things there.
That's a bit of an alpha, I guess. So how was the feedback like from the people actually like attending the
Oh
premiere?
no, like people were like crying in the audience. Like
Oh
that
shit.
was like a lot of people got emotional. I was like I was emotional myself, and I was happy to see the like, you know, I was both crying and sad, and at the same time happy to see the other people feeling that same emotion, because it shows like we really got the message across. We really got them to understand what's going on here. And yeah, tons of incredible feedback. The theater room was quite packed. Like we luckily got in ECC. Like the venue actually had like a dedicated theater room with like really nice chairs and like a good setup. We had the leader of Global Alms. She actually flew in. We met. She flew in. She kind of gave a talk at the end. That was, that was really great to see her as like one of the stars, like actually there. Joe Dobbs there as well. And unfortunately, Small Q couldn't make it. That was honestly really upsetting. Like he had his visa denied, which is really unfortunate because like our team put in a lot of effort to get a bunch of documents sent over to approve his flight over. So he at least recorded a message and sent it in, and all the audience got to listen to his message to everyone. So that was awesome. And yeah, the reception was honestly like all I could have really hoped for. And I'm happy it touched people the way it did, and it gives me, just a lot of excitement for like how it's going to be received by the rest of the world.
Juan, what about you? Like, if you think about the cases we talked about in the spaces, you think about like some anonymous scammer behind the screen scamming people and then like buying expensive bottles of champagne or whatever from it. But the reality is actually much darker. So what's your take on the doc you did?
I would say that for me at least it was impactful because this is not like something that happens a lot in South America. Like there is, a lot of different issues, a lot of like different groups that all everyone knows about. But scam compounds is not something that is known. Maybe one or two, but it's not something so common. So definitely for me it was like eye opener because I couldn't understand much better like how these scams actually work and how it affects a lot of people. And yeah, by talking with the audience and by talking with some of the people that was involved there or that I mentioned like yeah about like scam compounds, yeah, like yeah, told me like yeah, this is like a really really big issue here. Like I see this every day, or I see this like a lot in the region. Like I see it in the news even, and there is nothing being done about. Like that's I would say one of the general perceptions that I got from a few people that I talked after we made the documentary. So for me, it was definitely eye opener to see first of all what's the main issue. Maybe for people like in my culture, it's also something that doesn't know that is not too much known. Um, and yeah, I mean, once you know what is happening, you want to help. You want to see how you can contribute, and having like the presence of the NGO represent that I was in actually in the documentary and is like dealing with this every single day was also really really good because you can find someone that is dealing with these issues every single day and is actually trying to combat. Like you can be living in any part of the world and also have some contribution. So I think that's the most important thing that I get from this.
Nikita, what would you say? What role does crypto play in this kind of fraud schemes? Is it
Yeah,
like that they are off railing with crypto, I guess, because it's very hard to trace it and it's easy to just shift it around?
it's hard to trace it, and it's very easy to move around. Like I think the
Yeah.
main thing is just like, if they tried to move this through banks and like other stuff, like they're like, it's the same reason like businesses would want to use it nowadays. You just like you get your deposit faster, you move the money around faster. Um and it's not like they need to use it, like they just make such stupid amounts of money. They don't even need to like liquidate it all at once. They can just keep it in crypto, and then just whatever they need to do to pay for like fuel or whatever it is that they need, they have ways of turning that into fiat when they need to. But majority of that they can just keep in crypto. They don't even care about turning it back into fiat. That doesn't matter. And yeah, that's really the main thing. It's way easier to move around, and others can't really freeze it or do anything about it once it's been mixed and moved around. Really, like, honestly, like, these attackers, they get to innovate on all the latest tech that organizations don't get to touch as much. Like, they get to use AI without restrictions that we have to work with. They get to use crypto in ways like businesses will probably be doing like 3-4 years from now. And so yeah, they're really just at the forefront of tech, because they don't have to work with any regulations or any kind of government controls, and because of that, they've kind of created their own economy, essentially, and an economy in which many ways money moves faster and more easily than even in our in our world. And so that's really the role that crypto plays. It's just like it's their own economy now, and yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting what happens once all businesses move on chain as well, because now in some ways for the criminals it's just like now easier for them to pay for everything again and do all of this stuff, so it makes even less barriers to them as more people move on chain. But I think honestly the end thing is like we have to get better at preventing these attacks. Like we like there is like governments that need to go after them, find the criminals, put them to justice, but honestly, I think in the way the world is moving with abilities to do anonymization and all of this other stuff, and privacy, it's going to become extremely difficult to track down who it is. And so
Yeah,
I
was gonna touch on the privacy
Yeah.
thing because we talked about this
Yeah.
earlier. Like obviously this will also play in the hands into criminals, right? Using the privacy features
Exactly.
and not being traceable and trackable on chain. It's kind of funny because it actually shows the upsides for crypto, but in the wrong context, like with criminals, obviously. But it's actually like highlighting all the upsides that crypto has. Fast payments, you can pay anyone in the world at any given time without anyone in between. And yeah, just like in the wrong hands, man, we're using it for the wrong people in the
Yeah,
right
that's
moment.
that's exactly the thing, right? It's like all the privacy stuff. The moment we have good solutions, probably the criminals will adopt it first.
Yeah.
Before even the businesses are ready to touch it. I think it's still a net good for everybody. I think privacy is extremely important, and once we have it everywhere, it will be a net good. Again, what it comes back down to is prevention is the most important thing, right? How can we prevent people from getting their funds stolen? How can we prevent people from falling for the job scams and getting trafficked overseas, right? Because once they've been trafficked, it's way more difficult to save somebody than potentially maybe saving them at the stage of before they actually fell for the job scam. And so yeah, again, I think prevention is the most important thing to focus on in any area. And yeah, because I think we're going to end up in a world where tracking down people after the attack is nearly impossible unless we go into a surveillance state. The only other alternative is basically a surveillance state, which I don't know if it's I don't think it's so much better. or at all better.
We can do like a
Yeah,
book club of 1984 by George
yeah,
Orwell for
yeah.
that. Okay, but what I liked the most about the documentation was you actually like paired the awareness part with actionable stuff, because you raised donations for victims and like the people fighting these trafficking things. Can you tell us a sentence or two about that, Nikita? What kind of organizations were to receive these?
Yeah, so the majority of it is going to Global Alms. So they're the ones that are actually, helping the victims. They do a bunch of supportive work in many areas. The specific group is in Thailand, and they do a ton of work to help victims escape. They provide a center for them to actually like live and recover. The thing is, they also help them actually like repatriate back into their original country, because a big problem for the victims is that when they are actually, once they escape the compound, they don't have any of their documents with them. They can't board a plane to even return to their country. So even though they're out of the compound, they are stuck without any documents or legal identity where they are. And so Global Alms helps them with that, with all the paperwork, having a place to stay, even helping them deal with the trauma, because they like people come out of there broken, like completely broken, and it takes a lot of time for them to recover into what's even like remotely close to like a normal state of mind. And this group there helps them with all of these areas. And so yeah, I think that's the main group. Some of it will go to Small Q as well to support him and his efforts. He's actually doing a ton of work on just raising awareness around this issue as well, releasing music for it, but also just going on news, being an advocate, like helping others as well that are going through similar issues. And then there's also DeFi for Good and like one more organization that are going to get some donations there as well, like a smaller, like 10% portion, but just to spread the love across other issues around the world as well.
It's an interesting topic. Last week, when you were missing the call because of the travels, Nikita, Juan and I actually we wanted to talk about the public goods or the security funding of Giveth or the DAO fund in general. And basically, like the time is running out already again. Maybe we need to invite Griff on the show one time to be in here and do like a full episode with him to cover all of these things, because like I can imagine about the things that you talked about, like the victim help and stuff like that. Like even these kind of things could be a very nice use case for crypto in general. Just like having like public goods supporting these kinds of institutions or quote unquote public good companies, which are helping people, who just like have been used to do stuff that they wouldn't be doing like on a regular basis. Like no one is going to be saying like, hey, I'm gonna be scamming people at scale, and while I'm doing that, I'm getting like tortured or barely getting any food, any water, etc., which is very crazy. And I think that the funding that we have in the space, like towards public goods, for example, for the security side of things on Ethereum, is pretty cool. Like we have a good infrastructure built around these kind of things. Would be amazing to see something to have some support of the human side of things for the space as well. Would be very great. I would love that actually, like as an episode. Maybe we should reach out.
No, we should definitely reach out, and I think that can definitely be a whole episode on it. I think there's also a lot of interesting things, I mean, just on how funding is done and like quadratic funding and like these other like matching systems. But yeah, I think overall some of the things happening with funding in the space right now is I see there's quite a lot of like VCs actually giving donations to groups like Seal and to others, which is good to see. They are seeing that like security is important, and there's certain areas in security that are maybe kind of like tough to make money off of. but somebody needs to do them, and so that's what these organizations are for. We see how Giveth is also helping out in this area as well. I think, again, there's certain layers of the problem. Like, for example, more generic scams or things like these fake Zoom links and a bunch of other areas. Not everybody has like a clear economic model and like why they should like be finding these and why they should be protecting others from them. And then if you do this as a company, your intention oftentimes becomes to like hoard the data and not share it with everybody. But this data is actually most beneficial when it's shared across the entire ecosystem, when you're protecting everybody. And so that's why I think organizations like this need to exist. And luckily for us, we also have a pretty good business model where we can share a lot of like all of our blocklist data that we find publicly, because it benefits the customers we protect. But again, because of our business model, if there's a customer that we're not maybe is on like a company that's not under our protection, we may not be actively finding the scams targeting them. So there needs to be somebody that is doing the broader ecosystem-wide monitoring to at least raise the base layer of protection. They might not go as deep on any one organization as they possibly could, but they are raising the base layer of security for everybody, and that's very, very important.
I'm also thinking about how sustainable these donation or grants models are, really, like especially
It's
in
tough.
in a bear market right now. Like I'm part of Revoke, I'm part of Boring Security, and I've seen like the scales of grants go down like quite heavily. And if you follow Twitter, if you follow crypto Twitter, you see that a lot of companies that had a business model, they actually go out of business too, because there are just no customers left. And they say like, hey, we're sunsetting protocol XYZ. Hey, we're sunsetting marketplace XYZ because there's no product market fit for us. So it's interesting. And the grant side of things, it's probably like a thing we can discuss, especially on the security side of things, because we are impacted a lot by this.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this area, there's a main piece I would say is that you need good treasury management. Like, especially if you're not just there's kind of two things here. There's like startups that are using the grants, and for them that's kind of like a seed round, like, and they basically just need to use that money as quickly as possible to reach product market fit, and that may mean burning some of the money or taking the longer approach and saying I'm going to use this for like 2 years or 3 years of runway instead, depending what you want to do. But many people are encouraged to like burn it fast, on tokens or on people and on marketing or whatever it is, and grow quickly, right? That's if you're building a company. But if you're building a security initiative, there you really are playing a very long-term game. And the main thing you need to think about, I think, is like, how does all the benefits you're doing now, it doesn't just like disappear within a few years. And I think that comes down to good treasury management. And even you might be tempted to do a lot more, but you really need to focus on fixing a few very important things and allocating funds only to those, and making sure that, let's say you don't get funding for another year or two, you'll be fine, because you might have to go through a dry period, especially in crypto. Outside of crypto, maybe yes, maybe no. But even there, it's like, narratives change, the hotness of donating to your specific thing might change and people move somewhere else. I mean, larger NGOs, they have like whole like fundraising like kind of teams whose job it is to like attract like investments and why they should make money, or like larger nonprofits. So definitely a tricky job. And if you're doing security, I think you just really need to think about how does this last long term so you don't suddenly disappear. That kind of comes down to good treasury management, and to be very regular about posting what are the wins of your actual work so people understand why you should keep funding it.
this was one thing I wanted to add. Juan and I talked about this as well. When security work is basically mostly invincible, sorry, which is done behind the scenes. Invincible would be great, but it's invisible. So yeah, we're actually doing a lot of work, and we're doing like a lot of prevention work, which is like never seen on stage, if you will. And we always have the discussions, which we talked about in the space as well, like even with the drift hack. The most PR moments are the ones where there is like a disaster going on in the space, and then everyone talks about it for 1 or 2 days, and then we just move on to normal. And crypto work, security work, it's kind of like invisible, because if you're doing everything right, no one ever sees it. But if shit hits the fan, then something went wrong. Okay, so I wanted to ask, lastly, the last questions I have is segment 6, which is basically what's next. What are you guys looking forward to? Especially, I mean, the Easter season is around, so probably looking forward to that first. And then, Nikita, what's next? Which conferences or in real life events are you guys trying or planning to attend next?
Yeah, we have a few coming up. One interesting, actually, you're going to start seeing us both at crypto conferences and non-crypto conferences. I was just at RSA. One of the next big ones we're going to is called Safeguard. This is quite an interesting one, all around professionals and trust and safety and fraud, which is exactly the kind of people we also want to be talking to. As we expand the reach of our security network, as we expand integrations and the types of companies we work with. Because yeah, scams are really a problem hitting every single industry. And so we want to be working both within crypto, and we want to be working with companies as well, outside as well. And so this is going to be an exciting time for us, for sure.
Juan, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I also have been to some Web2 conferences as well, so definitely something different. I love crypto. I love crypto with all my heart. Like, this industry is the thing that I want to be doing every single day of my life, but it's also good to be expanding and seeing other ways, in our case, to have some ways to have distribution along other ways, to see what other industries might be suffering. So it's like a moment of exploration, of discovery, but at the same time, a good way to also expand the business and expand our ways to protect the internet in general. That is our whole mission.
Okay, I wanted to add one last thing, because actually before the space, I posted on X about Nikita Beer, who made like an announcement or comment about Twitter accounts that do like a post about a certain token for the first time ever. They will get locked down by Twitter, which is basically like a very great way to block these scams, because they just said, like, if an account gets hacked, they usually start talking about a token release. They are pumping some random token on pump.fun or whatever, and it's like in 99.9% it's going to be a scam or a hacked account, which is a great way to defend like these easy wins on Twitter. Nikita, would you agree with that?
No, I think it's a good idea. It should help a lot with like hacked accounts, especially like so. I mean, when we talk about hacked accounts, there's two kind of cases we need to talk about. One is it's a big person's account was hacked, and they immediately start posting a token as if that account is promoting it. That will immediately help there, and I really hope it gets implemented. Would help with a major issue. I wonder if this will help with the other case, because what happens a lot as well is just like scammers hack like tens of thousands of legitimate accounts. Then they just keep them for a while and slowly transition them to like a different type of account where it's not even who they were themselves originally. They transition it to like an NFT posting account or something else like that, like an enthusiast. And then they start just using that for like scam. They use that for scams. It's kind of like usually even one group like hacks them, then they sell it to another group. That group starts using them for running these scams, or they change it to look like another org or something similar. I wonder if it will help catch these accounts as well. Maybe. Hopefully it does. And yeah, then we'll see. I mean, to be honest, the scammers always find an alternative approach, but I do think this should help a lot. So yeah, we'll see when it gets implemented, like what the what the effect is.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. And maybe on the show next week, we're going to have an update for that as well. So thank
Yeah,
you guys
yeah.
for taking the time. Enjoy your time in Europe. See you again next soon. Happy Easter and safe travels, guys. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye, everyone. До свидания.
Awesome. Hasta luego.